Hello. Today I am dealing with the interior of my 1977 GMC Vandura. The carpet is dealt with in a separate video. What I'm dealing with in this video is the lining and the roof and all the rest of the finish that's not the carpet. The purpose of this video is to record my activities, and just like with the carpet, it's going to have two uses. The first is, if you're interested in the history of these vans, this is me taking a temporary finish, late 70s finish to one of these vans, so it'll give you a sense of what they did at the time. And then for two, if you enjoy videos where people are taking the finish of vans off, then again, this is the video for you. So right now, what you see me doing is I'm just going through and I'm taking out all the little loose bits. They have carpet around that window, which I found really interesting. Up top here, you've got these vents essentially. So this provides ventilation behind all these roof panels. Those are the screws they use to hold them in place. And these vents they're a hard plastic kind of thing. Now to remove these actual panels, all these panels are lined with vinyl, either black or green, and they have these screws that hold them in place. Here's me trying to give you a shot of the screw. It didn't turn out very well. All of these though, they're just basically sheet metal screws or wood screws. So this is the first piece that I attacked. I guess you would call it the upper corner piece. It is a long strip of thin plywood, and it is faced with this vinyl material. So here you see it. You can clearly see the thin piece of plywood, and then you can see the vinyl, and you can see how they stapled it all onto that assembly. Now I have to go through and I have to remove all the other pieces from both sides. You can already see where one piece is missing. But now there's this little piece at the back that I'm going to take down. You can hear that slight tearing or sticking or popping, whichever you want to call it. Vinyl, I find it tends to almost bind to each other, but it hadn't left any kind of a mark. It's just kind of sticky, so keep that in mind when you're removing this. There's a screw that I hadn't been able to take out earlier. Now the piece is free and I can take it down. Here's a view of it. Same thing. Piece of thin plywood with the vinyl stapled to it. This is that ventilation assembly, or that's what I thought at first, but then it turned out it was a speaker. There's one of the screws that held it in place up there, and you can see the wires leading to it. Here's another corner piece. This is where the back corner is. Same as the other panels, this is just a piece of plywood, and it's faced with that black vinyl material. You can see too in the corner wooden blocks where they would have mounted it. But there's an overall of the piece, and there's the wooden blocks. They're cut with an angle in them so that the piece would rest against them. Now there's this little piece above the door that I'm going to be taking out next. Same thing, you just kind of pop it loose and then it comes down. It's nice and easy. Now I'm dealing with the ceiling because I've got those side panels down on the sides as well as the back. So I'm taking out all the screws. That's my first order of business. Now I'm taking out this light because the light was holding the panel in place. This seemed to be, it looked like a halogen type thing. It would have been awfully warm. And there you can see the wiring for the light was tucked away behind this panel. And now I can take it down. The light just slides through that opening, and then the whole panel as an assembly I can remove. There you can see this is the board that they've got right on the ceiling, and this is what those panels were mounting to. And then you can also see where they had put the light through. Now I'm taking out the light at the back, and then I'm going to be taking out this largest of the panels. So very similar to the front, the light is just held in place by 2 screws. There's going to be a wire running to it through the roof, and I'm just going to take that out. These are all lights of a bygone era. I'm planning to put in LEDs, low power, low heat. I think they're quite a bit better than those old type halogens. So now I'm going through, and this black panel, it's held to the ceiling with these tacks. So everywhere that you see there's this like diamond pattern on it, at the corners of the diamonds there's often a tack, so I'm just taking those out. This is now skipping. I was a little confused on how to take that panel out, so I decided to start seeing if maybe it was being held in place by these other panels, which are like particle board, the white ones. So they have these hex head screws, and so I'm taking out all these hex head screws, and then I'm going to take this white panel down, and I'm going to do that on both the corners, because I thought I had to do this in order to remove that black sheet. Turns out I really didn't have to, but order doesn't really matter all that much when you're just doing disassembly. You can also see insulation on the roof. That's a nice touch. This van is foam insulated, and I really liked that. So here you can see that that panel, and this one's particle board. It's not plywood. And then there you see the structure in behind, and you can see the foam insulation. I'm just showing where this wiring goes. This wiring was kind of a mess before I got here, and there's a lot of wires where I don't know what they do, or I didn't know what they did at that time. So now I'm continuing. I'm reaching my hand behind this vinyl sheet, and I'm just popping out those tacks, and that's how I'm going to free this sheet. The sheet also has a bit of a foam backing or foam liner. Here's kind of the final phase. I'm popping out all these tacks. I'm going to find, though, that this panel is secured at the front. I'll give you a good view of it here. They just use a little piece of the siding, and they use that to hold the last of the vinyl in place. So what I'm doing here is I'm going through and I'm taking out all the screws holding the siding. These screws are driven into this top white panel, and there the whole thing comes free. Now I can deal with these top panels. I suppose you'd call them ceiling panels. So I'm just taking out again all these hex head screws all around the panel. That's going to allow me to loosen it and jiggle it out. And then you can see the little strips where they filled in the gaps. Now I've got this big panel, so again I'm taking out the screws. Nothing is holding this panel up if I take the screws out, so I kind of leave these ones for last. I've got my head holding it up at about the 1/3 point, and then I'm able to free the screws and I'm able to take the panel down with them out. There's another one of those cosmetic strips where the panels join together, and then you can see there is fiber insulation above the cab up front. I'm actually a bit unsure why they changed to fiber insulation from foam for the front, but that's what they did. So now I'm going to be taking out this foam. I've got my respirator, my gloves. I do not like how this fiberglass feels. It always makes my hands prickle, and I don't think it's good to breathe in. So I've got my mask on, got my gloves on, and then I'm just taking down this pink insulation, this pink fiberglass insulation. And you can see how they just use these thin pieces of tape. They would have held it up with those pieces of tape, got it into position, and then really I'd say what was holding the insulation in place was that white particle board panel you saw me take out earlier. Then there is it would be hard for me to explain. There's a metal strip that the insulation is tucked into. I'm trying to take that metal strip out, so I remove all the screws from it, but I'm not. Turns out you kind of got to be aggressive with it, and I don't do that until the end of the video. So I took all the screws out of the strip, wasn't able to remove the strip, so now I'm just coming back and I'm taking out what I can of the insulation with a screwdriver. In these places, this is where moisture had collected, so the insulation it's moldy, and it's got rust deposits on it, so I wanted to take it out. Now I am dealing with the wood panels. These are not real wood. I don't even think they look real. Their pattern isn't very convincing. It's basically fiberboard with that 70s wood pattern on it. Here you see the wheel well. They've got the wood panels, and then they've got these vinyl strips to face the panels, and the whole thing is constructed out of pretty thin lumber. It looks like 1x3 or 1x4. All these things are just held in place with finishing nails too. I thought I'd have to take it all apart, but it actually comes out as an assembly, so I take it out as an assembly and then I rip it apart later on the workbench. Now there's this hanger at the back. I'm gonna guess it would have been for like curtains. So it's just held in place at both ends by 2 screws, and I'm just going to be taking those 2 screws out at either side. That frees the whole bar. Now I'm coming back to these blocks, these little angle blocks where the corner pieces were mounted. They're just screwed in place, so I'm just taking them all out now. Now I'm also going to take out the screws holding these panels in place. They're just wood screws. Most of them are going through little raised sections of the frame. You can see the blocks were put into the frame itself. Here I'm kind of taking out the last screw of this panel, and you see it pop loose when I do. You also see how carefully they had to cut everything and cope it around, in that case the filler cap. Now this window needed to come out before I could remove the panels, so this is going to give you a good idea of how these windows are typically done. So there's this aluminum molding that the window would have had, and then there's this rubber seal that I do not think was sealing very well. And then I'm taking out all these, I guess you'd call it blocking. This is what's holding the panel up against the window, and it just comes out nice and easy. You can see all the foam insulation around the window. And so now I've got the panel in a place where I can start removing it. It's a fairly big boy. Just have to kind of shimmy it loose if it's not wanting to be cooperative in that moment. Here we see around the window, you can see all the foam insulation they put around this, and you can see the window itself and how that works. You can see they trimmed the foam insulation and a lot of it fell down. Now these are mounting boards. This is what the panels were mounted to. So these are screwed onto the frame, and I'm just going to take them out. This is the sliding door. I'm taking the wood panel off the sliding door as well. And there you see it come free, and I'm able to take the panel down. And that's what the panel looks like underneath. Here, this is going to show you how these wires are also stuffed in here with all that insulation. That you can kind of see the strip I'm talking about. It's a big U-shaped strip. It goes all around. I'm trying to get that out. Here I did get the strip out, so I'm going to be able to get all the insulation out afterwards. And that was the last step with removing all this stuff. I hope you enjoyed watching me take these old panels out, and if you're coming from the future, I also hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.